I always thought I was the kind of guy who could handle anything life threw at me. After 30 years of marriage to Lucy, I believed we had built a solid foundation. Sure, we had our ups and downs, but who does? We raised 2 kids together, fought over everything from the thermostat to the groceries, and celebrated our milestones with the kind of love and wisdom that comes with years together. But recently, I felt something shift. The laughter that used to fill our home began to fade, replaced by silence and the tension of unspoken words. I remember walking into the kitchen one evening, expecting to see Lucy preparing dinner, but instead I found her scrolling through her phone, a smirk on her face that made my stomach twist. When I asked her what was so funny, she brushed me off, claiming it was just a funny meme. But I could tell it wasn't just that. There were subtle changes in her behavior. Her late nights at work became more frequent, and when she came home, she was often too tired for us to talk. I tried to shake off the feeling that something was wrong, but then came the moment of truth, the day everything crumbled. It was a Friday afternoon. I had decided to surprise Lucy with dinner and picked up a nice bottle of wine from the local store. As I walked back through our front door, I noticed something strange, an unfamiliar car parked in front of our house. My heart raced as I approached the window and peeked through the curtains. There, in our living room, sat Lucy and a man I didn't recognize, laughing and leaning too close to each other. My mind raced. I felt the blood rush from my head to my toes, and I almost dropped the wine. For a moment I stood there, frozen. I wanted to believe it was innocent, just a friend stopping by. But the way they interacted, the playful touches, the intimacy, told a different story. The wine slipped from my fingers and shattered on the floor, the sound echoing through the house, snapping me back to reality. Every bit of anger, betrayal, and confusion surged through me as I stormed in. The sight of them together ignited something primal inside me. "What the hell is going on here?" I shouted, the words ripping from my throat. Like a knife, Lucy jumped, her eyes wide with shock, and the man, caught off guard, scrambled to his feet. "Oh my God, Mark," she exclaimed, her voice laced with a mix of panic and annoyance. "This isn't what it looks like." I was at a loss for words. I felt raw, exposed, and utterly betrayed. "What it looks like is you cheating on me, Lucy. Who the hell is this guy?" I shot back, my voice trembling with a mix of rage and disbelief. "Calm down. He's just a coworker," she said, waving her hand dismissively as though she were brushing away a fly. "We were just discussing work stuff." "Work stuff? At home, with your legs draped over him?" I retorted, my anger boiling over. I had never seen this man before, and yet there he was, casually invading my home, my life. I felt a sickening lurch in my stomach as the reality of the situation sank in. The confrontation spiraled into a torrent of accusations and denials. Lucy flung lies at me like confetti, telling me I was imagining things, that I was being paranoid. She claimed I had been distant, that I had pushed her away. Each excuse felt like a punch to the gut, as if she was twisting the knife deeper in my heart. My world was crumbling before my eyes, and I couldn't grasp it all. I stumbled back, taking a deep breath, struggling to process the emotional whirlwind. I had devoted 30 years to this woman, and now she was standing before me, a stranger wrapped in deception. I felt the walls closing in, each breath a reminder of the life we had built together, now shattered. In that moment, the weight of betrayal pressed down on me as I realized that this was more than just infidelity. This was a complete disregard for everything we had shared, a life together that now felt like a lie. I needed clarity, a way out of this storm of emotions that threatened to drown me. Yet as I turned to leave the room, my heart heavy with sorrow, I knew I had to confront this head-on. I wouldn't let her treat me like I was dead weight. Somehow, I had to find my footing again. The reality of the situation settled over me like a heavy fog. I stepped out of the room, needing space to breathe, to think. The front porch felt like the only safe haven amidst the chaos inside. My heart was racing, and I could feel the adrenaline pumping through my veins. I paced back and forth, replaying the scene in my head. Lucy's laughter, the way he sat with such ease, the casual intimacy that felt like a knife slicing through our years together. It was surreal. I had been blindsided, and the image of her with another man kept flashing before my eyes. The anger within me began to simmer, but beneath that lay a profound sense of betrayal and sadness that threatened to consume me. I had to gather my thoughts before I confronted Lucy again. As I stood there, my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a text from my best friend, Tom. "Hey man, just checking in, you good?" I stared at it, feeling a wave of emotions crash over me. Should I tell him? I needed someone to confide in, someone who would understand. I typed a quick response. Not really. "Lucy, she's cheating on me." A few seconds later, my phone buzzed again. "I'm on my way." I felt a flicker of relief knowing that I wouldn't have to face this alone. Tom had been my rock for years, and I knew I could count on him to help me navigate the storm that was brewing. When he arrived, I could see the concern etched on his face. "What happened, man?" he asked, stepping onto the porch. I gestured for him to sit down, and I launched into the story, the surprise I had planned, the confrontation, every painful detail. I could see his expression shift from concern to anger as I recounted my discovery. "That's messed up, Mark. You don't deserve that." "Yeah, well, that's the thing," I replied, my voice shaking. "I thought we had something good. Now I'm questioning everything." Tom leaned back, crossing his arms. "What's your plan? You can't just let her get away with this. You need to make a move." I nodded, feeling the fire of determination spark inside me. I wasn't going to just sit back and let this happen. If Lucy thought she could betray me and walk away unscathed, she was in for a rude awakening. My mind raced. Thoughts of revenge. How could I make sure she understood the consequences of her actions? After a lengthy discussion, we came up with a plan. I would confront her again, this time armed with evidence. I needed to catch her off guard. The next time she left for one of those late nights, I would follow her. I wanted to see for myself who this man was, what their relationship entailed. That evening, I waited for her as she got ready to go out. I tried to act normal, but it was like walking on a tightrope. Every movement felt amplified, her laughter, her casual glances at her phone, everything made my heart race. I could see her applying makeup, putting extra care into her appearance, and it made my blood boil. "Where are you off to tonight?" I asked, forcing my tone to remain neutral. "Oh, just a work event," she replied, her eyes flicking to the mirror. "You know how it is. We have a big project coming up and I want to make a good impression." "Right." I could feel my stomach churn, the anger bubbling just beneath the surface. "Have fun, then." As soon as she left, I grabbed my car keys and set out. I had never stalked anyone in my life, but desperation makes you do things you wouldn't normally consider. I followed her discreetly, keeping a safe distance as she drove to a restaurant across town. My heart raced as I parked a few blocks away, watching her walk into the building. I felt like a detective on a mission, adrenaline coursing through my veins. Inside, I watched through the window as she greeted the same man I had caught her with before. I felt my heart drop into my stomach. The way they leaned in close, sharing whispers and laughter, made my blood boil. I felt like a spectator in my own life, watching the woman I loved betray everything we had built together. They shared a bottle of wine, leaning across the table, their chemistry palpable. It was worse than I had imagined. I wanted to confront them right then and there, to throw the door open and expose her lies. But I held back, knowing that I needed more than just a moment of rage. I needed proof. After a while, they left the restaurant together, and I quickly followed them to a nearby hotel. My heart pounded in my chest as I parked and watched them walk inside. I couldn't believe what I was witnessing. I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and an overwhelming urge to confront her, to make her see just how much she had hurt me. But I also knew I had to keep my cool. I needed to gather my thoughts before I faced her again. I stepped out of the car, packing the parking lot, battling the whirlwind of emotions swirling within me. I had to remind myself, this wasn't just about revenge, it was about taking back my life. I took a deep breath, letting it out slowly. Whatever happened next, I was determined to reclaim my narrative. Lucy may have thought she could erase me, but I wasn't going anywhere without a fight. As I stood outside that hotel, my heart pounded in rhythm with my racing thoughts. I couldn't believe I was watching my wife walk into a hotel room with another man. The anger and betrayal coursed through me like venom. Every heartbeat was a reminder of what I stood to lose and the life I had fought to build over 30 years. I leaned against my car, wrestling with the part of me that wanted to storm in there, drag her out and confront her right then and there. But that wasn't the plan. I needed a strategy, something that would leave a mark on her consciousness. Revenge was best served cold, after all. With that in mind, I decided to let them have their night, but I wouldn't be unprepared for the fallout. I drove home, my thoughts swirling like a storm, envisioning the confrontation that awaited me. When I entered the house, it felt emptier than ever. The silence echoed through the halls, a stark reminder of the life I had once known. I poured myself a drink, hoping to calm my racing heart. I knew I needed to be focused. Tomorrow would bring the reckoning. As dawn broke, I found myself sitting at the kitchen table, going through every piece of evidence I had in my mind. The late nights, the secretive phone calls, the suspicious texts. I had no choice but to confront her, to make her face the truth of her betrayal. I was done living in the dark. It was time to shed light on her lies. When Lucy returned home the next morning, the sun had barely risen. I watched her from the kitchen, my heart pounding as she walked in, her hair tousled, her eyes slightly bloodshot. She looked disheveled but tried to play it off with a bright smile. "Morning, honey. I didn't expect you to be up so early." "Yeah, well, I didn't sleep well," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "You had quite an interesting night, didn't you?" She paused, the smile faltering for just a moment. "What do you mean?" "Don't play dumb with me, Lucy. I saw you," I said, watching her face go pale, the color draining from her cheeks. "I saw you go into that hotel with him. I watched you." Her eyes widened, and for a moment she seemed lost for words, the facade crumbling. "Mark, I can explain," she stammered, her voice trembling. I wasn't going to let her worm her way out of this. "Explain what?" "That you were cheating on me. That you lied about working late. You've been lying to me for months, and I deserve more than just excuses. Please, just let me talk." She raised her hands, trying to calm the storm she had created. "It's not what you think." I shook my head. "Then what is it, Lucy? Because the way I see it, you've made your choice. You chose him over our marriage." "No, it's not like that," she protested, desperation creeping into her voice. "I was just confused, and I didn't know how to talk to you about it." "Confused? Is that really your excuse?" I could feel the anger boiling to the surface, but I forced myself to remain calm. "You didn't just cheat on me, you shattered everything we built together. 30 years together, and you throw it all away for what? A fling." Tears began to well up in her eyes, but I couldn't feel any sympathy. "I thought we were happy, Lucy. I thought we had a good life together," I continued, my voice steady but filled with pain. "But clearly I was wrong." "I'm so sorry," she cried, her facade finally cracking. "I didn't mean for it to happen. I just felt so trapped. You were always busy. And I felt alone. Trapped. Alone." I scoffed, incredulous. "You could have talked to me. You could have told me how you felt instead of sneaking around behind my back." "I did feel like I couldn't talk to you," she insisted, her voice rising in frustration. "You never listened. You were always so focused on work, on everything else except me." The accusation hit me like a slap to the face. I had always tried to provide for our family, to be the dependable husband and father. But in her eyes, it wasn't enough. "So you decided cheating was the solution?" I asked incredulously. "I know it was wrong," she admitted, her voice breaking. "But I didn't think it would mean anything. I thought it was just fun." Fun, the word echoed in my mind like a taunt. "So it was just a game to you. You were willing to throw away our life together for some thrill." "I didn't think it would hurt you," she wailed. "I thought it was just a fling, but it got out of hand. And now what? You think you can just come back and pretend like everything's okay?" I felt a mix of disbelief and anger. "You've betrayed me in the worst way possible, and you think an apology can fix that?" For a long moment we stood in silence, the weight of our reality pressing down on us. The echoes of our past filled the air, reminders of the love we once shared, now overshadowed by betrayal and hurt. Finally, I took a deep breath, knowing I had to make a decision. I wouldn't let her manipulate the situation or play the victim any longer. "Lucy, I don't know if we can come back from this. Trust is broken, and once it's gone, it's hard to rebuild." Tears streamed down her cheeks as she shook her head. "Please don't say that. I'll do anything to make it right." "Anything?" I challenged, my voice cold. "You've already made your choice, and it wasn't me. I need time to think." With that, I turned away, leaving her standing there. realizing that the home we had built together was now a battleground of betrayal and lies. It was time for me to focus on myself and figure out what my next steps would be. This wouldn't just be about her anymore. It was about reclaiming my life and my dignity. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotions. After that confrontation with Lucy, everything changed. I felt like a ghost in my own home. Every creak of the floorboards, every sound of the fridge humming, reminders of the life we had built together. But now it felt alien, as though I were living in a house filled with memories that no longer belonged to me. I moved through the days like I was on autopilot. I went to work, but I couldn't focus. My mind was constantly replaying the confrontation. I avoided talking to friends and family, wanting to keep the betrayal close to my chest. I felt embarrassed, ashamed, and angry. How could I have been so blind? As the weekend approached, I knew I had to make a decision. I started to think about what life would look like without Lucy. The thought of moving on was terrifying, but I knew deep down that I couldn't stay in a relationship built on broken trust. One evening, as I sat at the kitchen table, I decided. Write down everything I felt. I poured my heart out onto the page, detailing the pain of the betrayal, the love I had for her, and the anger that consumed me. Writing was cathartic, and I found myself feeling lighter with each word. It was a way to process everything, to confront the reality of my situation. When the following Monday rolled around, I finally mustered the courage to meet with Tom again. I needed his support, his perspective. He had always been honest with me, and now was no different. We met at a local diner, and as soon as I sat down, I could see the concern etched on his face. "Hey man, how are you holding up?" he asked, his tone serious. "Honestly, I'm not sure. I'm still processing everything," I admitted, swirling my coffee around in the cup without really drinking it. Tom leaned in closer, his expression grave. "Have you thought more about what you want to do? I mean, really do." "I have," I replied, feeling a weight settle in my stomach. "I don't think I can stay with her. Trust is gone, and I don't see how we can rebuild it." "Are you sure? You know, couples can sometimes work through this," he said gently. I shook my head. "Not this. It's too deep, too personal. She had an affair, Tom, a real betrayal. I don't know if I can ever look at her the same way again." Tom nodded slowly, understanding settling in his eyes. "So what's next for you? Have you thought about separation or maybe even divorce?" The word hung in the air like a heavy weight. Divorce. It felt surreal to even consider it, but I knew that staying in a relationship where I felt disrespected and unloved was not an option. "Yeah, I think that's the path I'm heading toward," I replied, a mix of fear and certainty coursing through me. "Have you talked to her about it?" Tom asked. "No, not yet," I admitted. "I think I need to be clear on what I want before having that conversation. I need to be strong about it. But I want to do it in a way that makes it clear I'm not going back." Tom raised his coffee cup to me. "Here, to new beginnings. Then it's tough, but you'll come out stronger. You deserve to be happy, man." I smiled weakly, grateful for his support. After our conversation, I felt a sense of clarity. I wasn't merely a victim in this situation. I had the power to decide my future. That evening, I returned home with a newfound resolve. I had spent so much time feeling hurt and angry, but now I was ready to take charge. When Lucy walked in, I could sense the tension in the air. She was still hopping for reconciliation, but I knew that I had to be firm. "Lucy, we need to talk," I said, my voice steady but firm. She looked up, her eyes filled with a mixture of hope and trepidation. "Okay, what about?" "I've had some time to think since our last conversation. I've realized that I can't be in a relationship where I can't trust you. I'm not happy, and I don't think we can fix this." Her expression shifted, panic swirling in her eyes. "You're serious?" "Yes. I think it's best if we separate," I said, feeling the weight of my words settle over me. "Mark, please, we can work through this," she pleaded, desperation creeping into her tone. "I'll do anything, just give me another chance." I shook my head, trying to remain calm despite the emotional turmoil brewing within me. "You've had your chances, Lucy. This isn't something that can just be fixed overnight. I need time to heal, and I can't do that if we're living together in this situation." Her face crumpled and she stepped closer, trying to reach me. "Please don't do this. I love you. I made a mistake. Love isn't enough when trust has been broken like this," I replied, feeling a mix of sadness and relief wash over me. I need to prioritize my own well-being. I can't keep living like this. There was a moment of silence as she absorbed my words, the reality of our situation sinking in. So that's it. You're just going to walk away. I'm not walking away from what we had. I'm walking toward healing and self-respect, I said, my voice firm. Lucy stepped back, her expression shifting from desperation to anger. You think you're just going to be better off without me? You think this is going to fix everything? Maybe I will be better off, I replied, feeling a sense of empowerment. I'm tired of feeling like I'm less than I am. You called me dead weight, and I refuse to let that define me any longer. Her eyes blazed with fury, but I stood my ground. I knew this was a pivotal moment for me, and I needed to follow through. As the days passed, I began the process of separating our lives. It wasn't easy. Each day was a reminder of what we had lost. But with every step, I felt lighter, as though I was shedding the weight of betrayal. I turned my focus inward, exploring my interests, reconnecting with friends, and slowly rebuilding my sense of self. I realized that although the journey ahead would be challenging, it was also a chance for me to rediscover who I was outside of being Lucy's husband. I had the opportunity to reclaim my life, and for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful about the future. As the days transformed into weeks, I found myself navigating the uncharted waters of separation with a mix of trepidation and newfound strength. The initial sting of betrayal had dulled, replaced by a sense of clarity that I hadn't expected. I began to realize that while Lucy's infidelity had shattered my world, it had also opened a door to a future I never thought I'd explore. The process of untangling our lives was complicated. I had to face the reality of packing up our shared belongings, deciding what to keep and what to let go. Each item was a bittersweet reminder of our past. The wedding photo that had once brought joy now felt like a ghost of a life I no longer recognized. But I was resolute. I didn't want to hold on to things that reminded me of her betrayal. One afternoon, as I sorted through boxes in the garage, I came across a stack of letters we had written to each other during our early years together. I felt a pang in my chest, but instead of dwelling on the memories, I flipped through the pages. I smiled at our youthful optimism, at the dreams we had shared. Those moments felt like a lifetime ago, but I held on to them as reminders of the that had existed, not the pain that had taken its place. Amidst this emotional upheaval, I realized that I also needed to redefine my identity. I began to explore hobbies I had neglected over the years, like painting and hiking. I joined a local art class, finding solace in the strokes of my brush on canvas. The act of creating became a form of therapy. Each piece I painted was a reflection of my journey, expressing the pain, the confusion, and ultimately the hope I was beginning to feel. One day, while hiking up a nearby trail, I met a group of people who shared similar interests. We connected over our love for nature and adventure, and I felt a sense of camaraderie I hadn't experienced in years. It was refreshing to forge new friendships based on my interests rather than my past. As spring rolled into summer, I found myself smiling more often. I began to embrace the freedom of being alone, and I even started dating. It felt strange at first, to put myself out there again, but I was determined to not let fear dictate my choices. I wanted to explore the possibility of love without the shadows of my past looming over me. One evening, I went out with a woman named Sarah. We had met through a mutual friend, and our connection was instantaneous. She was warm, funny, and had a zest for life that drew me in. Over dinner, we shared stories about our lives, our passions, and our dreams. It felt exhilarating to connect with someone on a deeper level, and I found myself laughing and genuinely enjoying the moment, something I hadn't done in a long time. But as I sat there, a small part of me held on to the lingering doubts from my past. I wondered if I was ready to trust again, to let someone new into my life. I had built walls to protect myself from further hurt, and I worried about the possibility of being vulnerable once more. Yet, amidst the uncertainty, Sarah radiated a kindness that calmed my apprehension. I decided to take things slow, allowing myself to enjoy the present without rushing into anything. Meanwhile, Lucy remained in the periphery trying to reach out. She would text occasionally, expressing her regrets and desires for reconciliation. But each time, I reminded myself of the choice she had made, the betrayal that had severed our bond. I had to protect my heart, even if it meant being firm with her. I responded kindly but remained clear that I was moving forward with my life without her. One evening, after a particularly heartfelt conversation with Sarah, I received a text from Lucy that stopped me in my tracks. She admitted to feeling lonely and regretted the choices she had made. It was a raw and vulnerable message, but I couldn't help but feel conflicted. Part of me wanted to comfort her, to explain that I understood her pain, but the other part knew that the wound was too fresh, and I couldn't allow myself to be pulled back into the cycle of hurt. Instead of responding immediately, I took a deep breath, contemplating the best way to approach the situation. The last thing I wanted was to be swept back into the emotional turmoil that had overshadowed my life for so long. I decided to tell her that while I appreciated her honesty, I needed to continue on my path of healing. When I finally sat down to craft my response, I was surprised by the sense of closure I felt. Lucy, I appreciate your message. I understand that you're reflecting on our past, and I sincerely hope you find your path too. But for me, I need to focus on my own healing right now. I wish you well. Hitting send felt liberating. It wasn't just a message to her. It was a declaration to myself that I was choosing my happiness, my future, and my peace of mind over the chaos of the past. I was taking the reins of my life, and it felt good, empowering even. As I continued to navigate this new chapter, I took time to reflect on what I had learned from my experiences. I realized that betrayal can shatter your world, but it can also ignite a fire within you to rebuild. The journey wouldn't be free of pain, but it would lead to growth, resilience, and hope. I began to embrace the idea of starting over, not just in terms of relationships, but in every aspect of my life. I focused on self-care, investing time in hobbies, friendships, and personal growth. I was determined to emerge from this experience not just as a survivor, but as someone who had discovered a deeper understanding of himself. With every passing day, I felt lighter. I had traded the weight of betrayal for the freedom of self-discovery. And while the memories of Lucy and the pain of our past would always be a part of my story, they no longer defined me. I was moving forward, ready to embrace whatever life had in store. I had learned the power of resilience and the importance of self-love. And as I looked ahead, I felt hopeful, a feeling I wasn't sure I would ever experience again. Life was starting to unfurl its possibilities, and for the first time in a long time, I could see a bright future on the horizon. As summer faded into fall, I continued on my journey of self-discovery, embracing every opportunity to grow and heal. I learned to relish the small moments, watching the leaves change colors, enjoying the crisp air, and taking long hikes in nature. Each day felt like a new beginning, a step further away from the shadows that had once loomed over me. I was actively shaping my new life, and it felt liberating. I kept seeing Sarah, and our connection deepened. It was refreshing to share my life with someone who understood the weight of past struggles but focused on the present. She reveled in the simple things, from spontaneous weekend getaways to late-night binge-watching of our favorite shows. With her, I felt a sense of normalcy that I had lost for so long. There was laughter and joy, and slowly but surely, I began to let my guard down. One evening, as we sat on the porch under a blanket of stars, Sarah turned to me with a smile. "You've changed so much since we first met," she said, her eyes sparkling in the dim light. "You seem happier, more at ease with yourself." I chuckled softly, feeling warmth spread through my chest. "I think I finally learned to put myself first. It's been a long road, but I'm grateful for where I ended up." Her smile widened, and I felt a wave of gratitude wash over me. I realized how far I had come since that dark moment of betrayal, a transformation driven by the desire to reclaim my life and happiness. As autumn settled in, I also took time to reflect on the lessons learned through my experiences. I understood that relationships require trust and communication. Without them, they falter. Lucy's betrayal had taught me what I was willing to accept and what I would no longer tolerate. I had learned about my own resilience and strength, qualities I had previously undervalued. Despite the heartache, I had emerged stronger, wiser, and more self-aware. I understood that my worth wasn't tied to someone else's actions or opinions. Instead, it was rooted in my ability to rise from the ashes and create a life filled with joy, purpose, and love. One afternoon, while cleaning out some old boxes, I stumbled upon a photo album full of memories from my life with Lucy. At first, I hesitated, my heart racing with a blend of nostalgia and pain. But instead of succumbing to the burden of those memories, I opened the album, flipping through the pages. I acknowledged the moments of happiness, the family vacations, birthdays, and milestones. Yes, there were good times, but they were now overshadowed by the reality of our broken relationship. I closed the album, feeling a sense of closure. Those memories would always be a part of my journey, but they no longer defined my future. I was ready to let go and move on completely. One evening, as I sipped a glass of wine on the porch, I received a text from Lucy. It had been a while since we had any communication, and I felt a mix of anxiety and curiosity as I read her words. She expressed her ongoing struggle to cope with the fallout from our separation and her desire to apologize for everything that had happened. I took a deep breath, contemplating how to respond. Part of me wanted to respond with anger and resentment to remind her of the hurt she had caused, but I knew that wouldn't bring me peace. Instead, I decided to respond with compassion. I appreciate your message, Lucy. I want you to know that I've been working through my feelings and focusing on healing. I hope you find your path as well. Hitting send felt oddly liberating. I realized I didn't need to hold on to anger or resentment toward her. I had moved on and I was finally at peace with my decision. As the months rolled on, I continued to invest in my personal growth, nurturing relationships that brought joy into my life. I traveled more, explored new hobbies, and discovered a sense of freedom I hadn't felt in years. I made a conscious effort to surround myself with people who uplifted me, who encouraged me to be my best self. One night as I sat with Sarah, watching the sunset paint the sky with vibrant hues, I felt profoundly grateful for the journey I had taken. You know, I said, turning to her, I never thought I could find happiness again after everything I went through, but here I am enjoying life more than ever. She smiled softly, reaching for my hand. You've come a long way, I'm proud of you. In that moment, I realized that while betrayal had once shattered my world, it had also served as a catalyst for profound transformation. I had learned to love myself again, to embrace the possibilities of life, and to forge connections based on trust and mutual respect. The past would always be a part of me, but it no longer defined my future. I looked to the horizon, filled with hope and excitement for what lay ahead. Life was full of possibilities, and I was ready to embrace every moment of it. I was lighter, happier, and most importantly, better off.